All right. Well, good afternoon, y'all. Again, my name is Jimmy Wooten. I'm speaking to y'all from downtown Greenville. My office is in the Hughes Main Library of the Greenville County Library System. And I'm actually going to pull up and share with y'all my screen. So um, maybe Kitty and Marlene, if y'all could help monitor the chat if there are any questions and interject as you can. My focus will probably be primarily on the screen in front of me. And I'll go ahead and share my screen with y'all to begin the presentation. But the overview for, let me do this two things at once, Jimmy.
You're fine, Jimmy. We'll go ahead and monitor the chat. And if we've got any questions, we'll either just wait a second until you come to a stopping point, or we'll go ahead and interject as the questions come.
Okay, thank you. So ultimately, the things I'd like to discuss y'all today, just kind of give you a review of best practices and tools and resources to digitally engage with your audience, from content creation through a review of posts and platform analytics, things that you can do on your own. And sometimes we always think, well, yes, but how much is this going to cost me? So we'll get into that in a little bit as well. Ultimately, social media is a communication tool with a growing audience, and that can really impact your brand and your membership. So kind of throughout the afternoon here, I'm just going to talk about some things here on the agenda, is verifying and the different platforms and the different benefits that are out there and available to you, ways that you can measure your audience, and different tricks and trades and things that I have kind of learned in my time that I can share with you. My goal is to create these little aha moments, these opportunities where it's going to turn on a light bulb. This could be something for you personally, or something that you can take back and then share with your local library system or your friends board, things that you may notice personally as well. So these are things that you as a consumer can also really kind of influence your brand, the library system brands, and also your friends group branding as well. So with different messages that are out there, there are different goals that are constantly evolving. Uh, Ultimately, it's a way to stay up to date with members. COVID-19 has presented a lot of problems and challenges. They're actually just little barriers, things that kind of show you what you're made of during this time. I've kind of heard throughout today that it's kind of really boosted pushing things to go more virtually. So it's really an opportunity for you to kind of take a step back and look at yourself, and tailoring your messages for your brand to your audience, whatever that may be. And I never want you to forget that social media is a way to sympathize and empathize with your members. Perhaps you did not have any member benefits, but you had a annual membership. And so one thing that the Greenville County Library System and more importantly, our friends of the Greenville Library System has done is to take that time that our memberships were paused and extend those for that time frame to current membership. So let's say your friends group was closed without any benefits or any programs or friend sale or access to your used book sale operations for 6 months. Well, could you take a step back and extend that membership? So you always want to communicate and just think, what else can you do? Also, we have through the Friends of the Greenville County Library System, we have in September and October, we implemented some used book sales to current members. And at first we wanted to take it easy and kind of test the waters. And so we implemented 1.5 hour appointments, and we only opened it to 20 shopping appointments. So it was 1.5 hours for 20 shoppers. And that gave them access to what they all wanted, was our used book sales. And our used book sales center has about 70,000 books in it. So it's a warehouse. And from the feedback that we heard from them, as well as the opportunities for signing up for more appointments. When you don't have this again, this is great. I've been missing out on it. We are now starting in this weekend, in November and December, we have kind of expanded that. So instead of 1.5 hours for 20 shoppers, it's now 3 hours for 50 shoppers. So we still are way limiting what we normally would have had in April and October, were our open to the public sales. So just kind of giving the opportunity to think, what can you do to still serve your patrons? But when you serve them, how do you know, and how do they know that you're available? So one of the things that I have here on the screen now are just different ways, and this is what's working for us in our market in Greenville and in the upstate. But there may be something here on the screen right now that you can look at for your library system and for your friends group and say, hey, I bet if I were to ask them, for an example, the print receipts. So when patrons are going into your library system, they are going to get a printout that has a list of when their books are due and things along those lines. And at the very end, there may be an option for you to incorporate a custom message that goes onto the bottom of every receipt. And so that is one thing that we have done with our library system. And some of those friends messaging phrases and things that we're using on the bottom of those receipts are just upcoming member sales. Or it could be a generic thing is join our friends group. Here's our URL to do that, our website, or here's a phone number that you can call. And if staff are at the circulation desk are ripping off those receipts and handing it to the customer, that is an opportunity right there for them to say, well, this is what our friends group is doing. If you'd like more information while you're here, I'll be glad to get some more information for you. You can also have just different little branded messages. So on the bottom of the screen here in the center is a digital billboard that was along I-385, the exit right before you go, you got to our used book sale. So we had this up, it was April, not of 2020, but of 2019. And the impressions on that, it was just huge. So it pointed to our website. And then on our website, we had the same image that they clicked on to find out more information about the sale. So with all the digital marketing, print, online, and other, most important still is word of mouth. You're not going to initiate those questions with folks if you're not giving them something to think about. So whether it's streamlining your operations beforehand to then put out that message, that's always a common goal with marketing, is getting the right message to the right person at the right time. So to tell your story digitally, which is kind of the point of today's conversation, I really want to talk about all the different social media things that are out there. And you're probably recognizing several of the images and the icons and things on the screen. Social media is changing, and it's changed drastically of how we interact with our patrons and what we're telling our patrons and what we want them to know. So there has been so many questions of why do you do social media in the first place? One, it's relevant. And also, social media is mobile. You can have that customization to change that message, whatever your message needs to be at that time. And if let's say Facebook were its own country, they would be the third largest in the world. So just kind of stop and pause and think about that. It's crazy to think that there are that many people, but yes, there are that many people that can experience your brand as well. And really about 93% of online experiences begin with a search engine. So what do they know about you? And there's different platforms and things that serve different purposes. For example, Facebook has over 1.3 billion users. The purpose of that platform will be to kind of build relationships. Twitter, for example, there's over 600 million, and things that are more trending on there are news, articles, different conversations, and that's going to be more of a public relations opportunity out there. There's Pinterest, maybe that could help your crafting, your photography, your food and beverage, books, or maybe your friends group operates a cafe, something along those lines. Really depends on your group and your audience, but there are different ways and different platforms to make that a little easier for your audience and your community. The overall goals for marketing and just social media in general are one, to increase your followers, and this is also for your friends group as well, to increase your members, increase traffic to a website so they can understand what you're doing and how you're doing it, to find business partners, provide engaging content, and we'll hit on that in just a few moments. But here on the screen in front of you, the benefits of social media, there are numerous, but it kind of boils down to four specific things. Those four pillars are communication, collaboration, education, and entertainment. That's why people turn to social media in the first place. It gives you an opportunity to network with colleagues and peers, local businesses, and there's just one thing that you're like, well, how can is there a way, is it possible for search engines to know about your business and to know the correct information about you? And there is. So on the next few screens, we're going to talk about things, and this is more of an action step. This is a challenge that I'm going to present to each of your libraries across the state, as well as your friends group as well. If you have a friend shop or like we do, a used book sale center, put that, if you have a street address, you can put that on Google. And one of the reasons it's important is because you can show people one of the things that that they love. So here I've Googled Tipsy Taco. It's a really good Mexican restaurant right near my house, right off of Pelham Road here in Greenville. But one of the things that happens is when you're looking, as I was saying earlier, those search engines start, or those engagements on a web browser start with a search engine. When you type that on Google, this is the information that's going to pop up on the screen. So I'm not sure if y'all can see my mouse here. Can y'all see that?
We can, Jimmy. It
okay.
Looks good. I want to stop you just for a quick second, and I was hoping you could repeat those four pillars one more time.
Yes, those four pillars of social media are communication, collaboration, education, and entertainment. Now, I kind of wish entertainment had a little ending like ATION to kind of match the three previous, but entertainment.
Wonderful.
So those are the four pillars there.
Thank you so much. And we can see your screen and you're navigating through there.
Okay, great. Thank you. So when you're typing in things on Google, this is what you want to look for is your brand, is your friends group, your book sale warehouse, anything along those lines, is it on Google? And the way to do that is search for this little line here, and it says manage this listing. So that's the key points. So Google your library, Google your book sale center, and see what pops up. If it has managed this listing, that is key. And when I started at the library system here in Greenville, there were some errors with ours. I'll be upfront. Some of the times were wrong. Some of the pins were wrong, and I'll discuss that here in a moment. But I've Googled now the Greenville Library downtown. I'm not using words like Greenville County Library System downtown Greenville. You got to think more simpler. What would your average user search? So Greenville Library downtown is what's here, and we've claimed our Google My Business profile. So what this is when you type on Google, this is the screenshot of what it's going to look like. And over here on the far right where it says Hughes Main Library, it's going to tell you the address, the phone number, the number of reviews. It's going to give you a link here for the opportunity to click on website and directions. Then it's going to give you this typical information as well. So this is the URL for your website. So all of this is in your control to navigate, and we'll explain how to do that. Zooming in a little bit on that information, if it's harder to see, people want to know, oh, what does it look like? When do you open? What's your website? And how can I get more information by calling? And all of those are 4 opportunities where something can go wrong. And for us, something did go wrong with one of our library systems. We had the pin was wrong. So when someone clicked, oh, I want to go to the Hughes Main Library in downtown Greenville, let me click directions. Well, they weren't getting here. And so that user experience can be hard, because then they're circling the block. They're trying to find the information. They're going to click on directions, and it's going to put on another screen on their phone Google Maps of how to get to that location. Well, if that's not right, then that's going to present a problem. You're going to have someone coming in, it took me forever to get here. They're already kind of tense and frustrated compared to, I got here, no problem, walk right in to enjoy the library. So you can affect their experience before they even get here. So hopefully some of these things, if y'all are, y'all are Googling things on your own at home personally, these are things that you're kind of noticing. One of the more important things with that are, people are saying, what does it look like? These are images that we have within our within our Hughes Main Library anyway. And then we also created one for each of our branches, and also the Friends Used Book Sale Center. So we have all of that, and that's all within your control to do that. So here's how to do it. If you click on Google, and you will need to start a Gmail account. And so when you log onto your Gmail, creating and claiming the Google My Business platform and process is free, and you're able to do that by clicking on this little 3x3 grid, and then go down here to Google My Business. So it looks like a little storefront window with a awning over the window. And that's the platform that's going to really amplify and hopefully amplify your library or your used book sale center there. I would recommend assigning multiple users. That way, several people have information. If you give it to one person and they are no longer with, the board, for example, maybe the president or the secretary, if that position is turned over on a term basis, that could present a challenge. So always giving the key to that information to a lot of different people would be helpful. And these are the things that you can see from there. So for 2020, for our Friends operations, we've had 21,441 calls. 28,000 people have asked for directions on how to get there. People have viewed the photos over 2 million times. So this data is giving them the opportunity to see what it's like when they enter the front door. What does it look like from the outside of the business? What does it look like from the parking lot? It guides them to experience it without even stepping foot into that branch or into that building. So to do that, when you click on Google My Business, to claim you click on the information that was in that red box earlier, manage this listing. You can then, there's some authorization processes that you would need to go through, but you can do it by phone. And that's probably the easiest, or you can do it by mail, and that takes up to 2 weeks on a normal schedule. But if you do it by phone, it's almost immediate. So if it's a general, like a switchboard phone, you'll need to tell everyone, hey, I don't know whose phone is going to get this first. If you answer and you hear a robot giving you a code, it's from Google, it's legit, and it could present some problems. So just let let the staff know, let the board know. But maybe you're thinking right now, well, my friends group, we don't have a phone number that we're always standing by the phone. You can assign a voicemail line. Maybe your library system can assign a voicemail line to your branch or to your friends group, and then maybe have a volunteer always answering those calls to say, or like we have for our recordings, thank you for calling the Greenville County Library System's friends of the Greenville County Library System. Other things on there are, let's see, the dates of our upcoming sales, any membership information, just kind of key and key specific facts. So that's kind of one challenge I kind of want to really see if that can help. And please know I'm available. I can answer those questions for you in your group if you'd like. Also, one of the key things that will come up with your Google My Business platform is reviews. You'll get a little bit of firsthand of knowing how you're doing in the chat features, in those on that platform. You'll get firsthand. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's ugly, but always kind of take it with a grain of salt. You're opening it up to people, and hopefully you're pleasing everyone. But with business, sometimes you're not always going to do that. But I do encourage you to talk back and respond to those listings. Sometimes it's good information that your board needs to know so they can address it in a timely manner. So these are some quotes that we have about some of our library operations just over the past few weeks with as our branches have been reopening, and sometimes during the closure, and I captured some of those as well for you as well. So this is just information that your users are sharing with you, so they want you to know how you're doing. So when it comes to outside of things other than just the Google My Business, what kind of content does your library system have that you can put out to support your friends group, to support your messaging? And always that content online should be engaging, informative, simple, and consistent. So the simple message could be, coming up this weekend, sign up for an appointment to shop at our used book sale center. Or our friends group has supported the library with this upcoming event. Register online or call this number to RSVP. There's different things like that. It's a one simple. Don't make it 10 different things. You got to follow this step, then click on this and verify and get a confirmation email. No, just keep it simple. That's going to then lead them down the path that you want them to go on. So when you're looking at creating those messages and that content, when you're on Facebook, there's going to be some terms that it's kind of important to understand. So if you have your phone and you're on Facebook and you're scrolling and you see something from the Greenville County Library System or our friends group or really any business, if your logo pops up anywhere on their screen, on their phone, that will be called an impression. And that's the number of times your post was viewed. Now, phones will probably get to the point where they can know exactly where your eye is looking on the phone. But as long as your logo or something, an ad or something along that is on the little black portion of the screen, that's called an impression. Now, an engagement is what I truly look at. And that's the action that someone's going to take, whether that is clicking like, making a comment, sharing that information. All that is an engagement. And that shows them like, oh, you just didn't necessarily see my post. You actually engaged with it. You thought it was so nice and you shared it. Thank you very much. That's what an engagement is. And the reach is similar to both of those, but everything on Facebook really boils down to the reach, number of people that are engaged. with that content. So that's a combination of the engagements, the likes, the comments, the clicks, the negative feedback, and everything, all kind of tied into the reach. So if someone shares it and then 20 people that person saw shared it, all that's calculated into those numbers. So I'm going to kind of give you all some little takeaways today to kind of bring to your group and your organization. If you're thinking, well, we want to boost our membership, we want to boost our sales so we can support our library even more than what we do. But what content do we put on social media to keep our brand on the top of mind? So here's all these content ideas. Think about when you're at the used book sales and some of those questions that people ask, the volunteers when they're at the transaction, when they're counting those books. What are some of those frequently asked questions? Now, what do y'all do with the money from these used book sales? Do y'all accept book donations for this? That is all really great content. You can always introduce staff or key volunteers. We've had someone that has volunteered with us for 20 years. Here's a little bio and a picture of them. There's a milestone anniversary, or we've supported this program for the past 10 years. Your support is important to us. So all these little open-ended questions about something very specific, sharing your hours of operation, your locations, as we did earlier with the images of the St. Helena branch that y'all are at today. That is a great post, sharing those images of what it looks like as you're entering the front door, what the facility looks like. And also I put on here, you can share some recent stats and upcoming needs that maybe your organization is needing. So hopefully there's some ideas and some content. Hopefully I'm not talking too fast for y'all as well to kind of get all of this together. But please know that I am here. I'm happy to engage and happy to kind of get that started for you to know what improvements can be made to your organizations and their branding online. So one of the tricks of the trade, so if you are an admin or the admin on your library's Facebook page or your friend's page, one of the key things that some organizations pay thousands and thousands of dollars for is that famous little button that like us on Facebook, that thumbs up. And they pay hundreds or thousands of dollars to have what's called a like campaign. Now, I will tell you, a like is not everything. Don't judge your brand based on the number of likes that you have. But one of the more important things is it's also like a, what's the right word? It's really like a social following. You'll know that a brand has more reputation if they have larger numbers, but not in all cases. So here's a way that you can grow your likes, what's called organically, so without paying money. And so at the bottom of each post, there's this little section here where I have this green arrow. It has a little thumbs up, it has a little heart, it has that new little squeezy care button. And if you click on that, that is a way that you can then open a new tab to see who has engaged with that post, with that brand. And if you click on that, you'll then pop up a whole new screen, and you can then click on people that you have not and invite them to your brand. So people that have not already followed you, you can invite them and they'll be able to grow your brand. And you just picked up a follower by someone who's actually already engaged with you. So hopefully that kind of target invite really helps. That is one thing that we've done. And typically the click and response rate on those, for us anyway, is well over a half. So it's very helpful that way. So I am open to some questions, and be glad to, speak with individual groups by email, by phone sometimes. So be glad to help out in any way that I can. I have my information here on the screen, my email address and my phone number. So again, thank y'all for having me today, and glad to help out in any way that I can.
Jimmy, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I know the Friends of the Lexington Main Library just not that long ago figured out the invite button. So when
yes,
you like our post, you can hover over and see whether or not they already like your organization. And if they do not, you can invite them. And our reach has expanded greatly once we started utilizing that tool. So we don't have any questions in the chat yet, so I'll give it a second for people to put their questions and comments in there. But one thing I wanted to touch on is I love your idea about content. What should I be posting?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have great ideas about things that you want to post, but maybe you can't put 17 posts in a day. You have 17 ideas, but you don't want to put 17 posts. So I would really encourage organizations to keep a running tab, almost like an open Word document of things that you want to go back to. Just things that, hey, what would be good? Remember when we had those new computers? Let's just remember to do that. And just keep a running tab of content. That way you don't forget it. You don't forget to go back and put that information out there.
Right.
Do you have any, excuse me, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the resources that Debbie shared earlier. So if you don't have someone to kind of be that key person to manage that Excel document, that Word document, what can we post in 3 months from now? Or we're going to be kicking off summer reading, and the Friends group is always a big supporter of summer reading. How early should you be scheduling something like that to happen? So there are some scheduling features, some software things you can pay for, but there's also within each platform some free opportunities as well to kind of schedule those posts. So I can always share that information with y'all. And if this kind of triggered several what if questions and things like that, I'm open to share that too. The Canva resource that Debbie shared earlier, I've used that personally as well, not from a business standpoint, but personally, and then with some other nonprofits that I've volunteered and worked with. I have done that before. So we didn't plan our two, and even some of the resources that Lisa was sharing earlier, they need to know those numbers. And you can get so many, I can bore y'all completely with all the statistics that Google My Business and also our Facebook page and our Instagram and our Twitter, our YouTube, all these platforms, the Google Analytics on each of our websites. I could bore y'all to tears of how much I love that data, but it is there and you can learn so much from it. So if you don't have anyone, maybe your secretary on the board, or maybe you serve as that and you want a little bit more information, there's plenty more data that can support and put some real validity among your messaging and give you reasons of, no, that didn't work, or man, we should do that again. That was excellent.
Well, we've got lots of comments coming into the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and throw a few questions out to you here. We've got one from Sarah. Is there a way to turn off the reviews on Google if you don't want to have to monitor them?
I'm sure if you work at Google, you can. I don't know of any way to do that. It's kind of, you can always choose, and it's up to you and your kind of branding standards. Should you reply to it? Should you not? Should you let it go? Or you just kind of give it to the Friends president and say, hey, I'm just a volunteer. You got a little bit, you're higher ranked than I am, so you got to deal with this. I'm sure it's okay to do that as well. But no, not that I know of.
It is always a challenge, in the organizations that I have volunteered with. Sometimes we have had large events that have sold out, and nothing makes people grumpier than an event that they intended to go to, not having tickets available. And sometimes they can be very grumpy on social media. They don't seem to quite have a filter, the same filter they may have if they were face to face with you. So it can be very challenging because you don't want the reputation of your nonprofit to be damaged by this person's negativity, yet you can't necessarily just go on there and delete that because you don't like it. You can't necessarily remove their comment simply because it doesn't, we don't enjoy it. But we've got lots of comments on here about thanking you for this fantastic information. A lot of people are taking all of your ideas and it's just theft, really, is what they're doing. Is they're just going to steal these ideas and run with it. So
well, go with it. The more the merrier. I think that's kind of why we're here. And if it's working for us, and in this market, in this segment, in this county, I'm sure it can work there as well. So, copy and paste and do what you want.
Jimmy, I think that you can you all hear me? Yes, I think you can set up an alert though on the Google comments so that you don't have to continuously check on them. I think that you can set up an alert so that, Sarah, you're at least notified, hey, you've got a comment, you might want to go check this out. Because to your point, Marlena, people post all sorts of things. And some of them, are not relevant, not helpful. There's no feedback that you could possibly get from it to do something with. They're just, I think that you can set up an alert, but I don't know how to do it. I'm sorry. Jimmy, you might.
And I do have a quick comment here. Thank you, Lisa. Yes, you're right. One time a local business in my community, I saw that they had a very low rating on Google. And it's a very reputable company. And when I checked it, somebody actually gave them 1 star and commented, never been there.
Oh.
I gave them 1 star and then put, never been there. I think some people are just going to be ugly. But we do have a comment here from Jennifer. She was commenting that it looks like the Bluffton Library may soon have a Facebook page, but one challenge that they're having is you need to have at least 2 board members to be administrators and monitor that. So that can be a challenge with some smaller organizations, is finding enough volunteers who are willing to be administrators. That could be a challenge.
There could be some opportunities with local PR companies, with local marketing companies even, that kind of have a soft spot for libraries in general, or as a nonprofit. So there could be some opportunities out there if there's maybe an intern, or even I manage, and I keep an eye on our friends of the Greenville Libraries page as well. But it is something that you have to have a personal account to then be able to be an administrator of. So they will say, yes, Jimmy Wooten is an administrator of the libraries and the Friends of Libraries pages.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. One thing that I've always stressed to a lot of different organizations is the importance of record keeping. As you open these different social media accounts, as you open these emails, as you, like even Canva, if you create a Canva account for your nonprofit organization, keep a very accurate record of the username and passwords that you have for these accounts, and also the security questions, because my mother's maiden name may not be your mother's maiden name. And then when that person leaves the board 7 years later, when nobody can remember the password, it can be quite a challenge. So I think it's always important for every organization, large or small, to have a running list of all the accounts and passwords associated with that organization.
Paul, to answer your question, that's a thumbs up for your Lions group.
Paul's getting a lot of information here today. Paul, those Lions are going to be.
Well, and hopefully y'all are now experts, so you can take that into your own community as well, once you play with it for a little while.
Wonderful. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments for Jimmy?
Well, thank you very much, y'all. I appreciate it. And there's more where that came from if you need.
Thank you so much. Jimmy, we really appreciate it. Everybody, we are going to go ahead and pause just for a moment. We're going to put another rotating PowerPoint back up, just a little bit more information. As a reminder, the keynote speaker is going to be on a different Zoom link. Most of you should have received an email with that Zoom link. I've got two people joining real fast. Most people should have received a separate Zoom link for the 2 o'clock keynote speaker, Brad Taylor. If you have not, I've included a link in the chat, and I'm going to leave that up. That is where you can see it live on their Facebook page. So they're going to broadcast that live stream. So if you do not have a link in your email for that, then just go ahead and click through on Facebook and you can see that. That will start at 2 o'clock. We will keep this Zoom open, and then we will return after the keynote speaker right around 3:10, and we will have Dan Aldridge with us. He is the president of the Georgia Libraries, and he's going to speak about memorandums of understanding. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you back here soon.